Argentinians have just been to the polls in midterm elections and dealt a devastating blow to the ruling President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, who will now not be able to run for a third term. With the era of the Kirchners now drawing to a close, is it time for investors to once again look to Argentina with hope, not fear? With me to discuss the future of Latin America's third largest economy is Dr. Alejandra Irigoín from the LSE and Jonathan Wheatley, Deputy Emerging Markets Editor here at the FT. Welcome to you both. Alejandra, just quickly, why did Fernández lose the election, and is this a sign of a meaningful change in Argentinian politics or just a reaction to a personality?
I think it's the state of the patient of the people. They've grown tired of inflation and insecurity and a bit of the rhetoric as well. And the laws of the government needs to be reassessed in terms of the numbers in parliament and so on. It's not as catastrophic as you might think.
Does this open the way for reforms, really?
Well, I wouldn't expect much on behalf of the government at the moment. They seem quite disconcerted about where to go. It's to be seen where the Peronism will like to take the country in a couple of years' time.
Jonathan, how do you read this? Do you see this as part of a broader development or across the region and across emerging markets?
Well, first, just in terms of Argentina, I think as Alejandra said, it's a really interesting question of what will happen to Peronism now, because Cristina, she lost a lot of votes, but she still had a third of the vote of the country, which is a lot for a midterm election anywhere. So she's not a lame duck. The question now is whether she's going to be able to keep her project going in some way, or if we're going to see a different flavour of Peronism or something different.
So just characterise quickly that project. It's a populist mix, if you like, of social and...
I think what's underneath it is an awful lot of spending on an awful lot of government jobs, and that's one reason why it's quite popular.
While also being quite harsh with external players.
Terribly harsh on... We know there's this unresolved question of Argentine debt, where they've been extremely belligerent against these holdout bondholders who've refused to exchange. Mm-hmm. They're very aggressive in that issue, very aggressive with direct investors. We had the nationalization of YPF, the Repsol assets in Argentina. I've talked to people quite regularly. A big energy investor told me not very long ago that he will never set foot in Argentina again. So this relation with the outside world is very difficult. But I don't know what Alejandra thinks, but I think among the people, they may not like the inflation and the currency and the rest of it, but they're a rich nation. They have a lot of agricultural produce, and there's a lot of public sector jobs.
Yeah, well, I think they were very recalcitrant against foreign investment and so on as a matter of choice in the past. Now they are doing as a matter of necessity. They have.
Why is it necessary?
Well, because they would need to negotiate domestically the legitimacy to go back to, and they are doing it in one way or another. Go back to international financial institutions for borrowing,
right.
And that in a way could be the loss or the fallback of these elections, that the hardcore of Kirchnerism, if you want, would have to swallow that pill. But in the prospect of Peronism, they would have to negotiate.
So what specifically in terms of economic management?
Well, depending. There are short-term measures or measures which can change the situation in the short term, like loosening these exchange controls, trying to be more transparent about inflation. But the sustainability of that requires long-term, reforms of issues which have been there for the very long term. That is the sustainability of the state.
You asked about the emerging market context. This is what I find so fascinating about Argentina, is that it doesn't have a lot of the structural problems that other emerging markets do. It's not in recession, it's still quite a wealthy country. It has problems that seem to be of its own making, but as Alejandra says, they're so long term now. People have got so used to behaving this way, it's so hard to change.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you next, was Argentina, for certainly as long as I've been alive, has always been a country which was about to be, or had all these great potential, but never fully delivered, and everyone hangs on to that one fact that just after the Second World War they were the seventh biggest economy in the world.
I used to say that the best Argentinians have is very good economic historians in terms of the public relations they've done about the potential and the performance of the country. And I think that they are big issues that they never been really addressed, like the fiscal constitution and the federalism, the relation between the provinces and the central government, who are the beneficiaries of the redistribution and so on, and the very fact that it's a very, very rich country that can afford to go through a crisis every 10 years.
Just from both you, a very quick answer. Are you optimistic that change will come? Almost sort of yes, no, if you can.
Well, as an Argentinian, I'll be very skeptical because we've been there before many times, and as an Argentinian, I wish they learn from that.
Jonathan.
I'm afraid I'm not much more optimistic than that.
Okay.
So.
Alejandra, Irigoín, Jonathan
Thank
Wheatley,
you.
thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. To read more on this and other topics covered by the FT Analysis team, please go to ft.com/analysis.